From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Headliners. I'm Elliot Rodriguez. The deadly collision of a regional jet and a U.S. Army helicopter late Wednesday was the first major commercial plane crash in the U.S. in more than a decade. Flights are once again taking off and landing at Reagan National Airport after the crash. All those canceled flights affecting airports across the country, including right here in South Florida. CBS News Miami's Chelsea Jones spoke with some of the first arrivals from the D.C. area.
Reagan National Airport, home to the busiest airport runway in the country, forced to close after the deadly Midair collision.
Police were everywhere. You couldn't get to any of the terminals.
Allison was there when the airport reopened. She says the empty halls of DCA were eerily quiet as she waited for her flight to South Florida.
The airport was empty. The parking lot was empty. It was the strangest thing. Police everywhere.
Southwest Flight 4867, the only flight from Reagan to land at FLL.
Our plane was at least like 100 seats empty, so that can increase a little bit of anxiety, a little bit.
It is unclear how the plane and helicopter ended up in the same flight path. The NTSB intends to release a preliminary report in 30 days.
I just kept thinking about the poor families. And obviously what went wrong.
Aviation attorney and former Army pilot Willard Shepard says the airspace around Reagan is limited.
To the east of the airport there, you obviously have the White House, you have Capitol Hill, and since 9/11, all of that airspace is off limits entirely unless you have special permission. So therefore, all the flights have to come up and down the Potomac to be able to get into the airspace.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and President Donald Trump saying the crash could have been avoided.
Foundational rule in flying, always see and avoid. There can be even directions from the controller, but if there is an aircraft that is in your path and there is a danger, you must always see and then take every action you can for evasive action to avoid.
The tragedy not lost on passengers landing in South Florida.
And of course, as we were taking off, it was, peeking out the window, and I could see the rescue boats. This is, very sad, tragic, and personal.
At this hour, authorities say they have recovered 40 bodies intact, the most they safely feel like they can do at this point. They will halt recovery operations at dusk and resume when the sun comes up. At Miami International Airport, I'm Chelsea Jones, CBS News, Miami.
Well, the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement says they will continue making arrests in the crackdown on undocumented immigrants. The news causing strain for many South Florida families. Many worry that their own loved ones could possibly be targeted at school or maybe in church. CBS News Miami's Joe Murray joins us from a middle school in Fort Lauderdale where the fear is real.
They're basically worried, as if they're going to come home from school and they don't see their parents.
With her mom's permission, we talked with 14-year-old Leanna Head about the anxiety going around her middle school, where she says a number of her classmates' parents are undocumented.
They're not worried about leaving, but they're worried about not being able to be with their family. They'd rather be deported on with their family than without.
It's ever-changing information that's coming out there, and it's actually causing a lot of angst in our communities and even our schools.
The immigration crackdown on the minds of Broward School Board members at their Tuesday workshop.
Get caught up in the system. When I say that, foster care, anything like that, we do have partnerships with other nonprofits to provide supports to students and their families.
The deputy superintendent sent this memo to principals letting them know student records are private.
Unless there's a court order, we do not release any records on any of our students.
Despite the president saying immigration agents can go into schools and churches, the border czar told TV personality Dr. Phil McGraw it is not happening.
It's straight up. Are you going into schools and arresting children at schools? No.
We know we have a high percentage of students coming from countries from around the world.
Miami-Dade School Board member Dr. Steve Gallen said there are undocumented students and parents in his district, but so far attendance hasn't been affected. deported.
And we will navigate this process and this challenge as we have always done with the mission of keeping our children first.
Leanna Head said despite knowing students are supported, there is still a lot of worry.
It's kind of sad to know that when I'm going to wake up in the morning and I don't know what's going to happen at my school, or I don't know if I'm going to see my friends have to go away.
To be clear, no ICE agent has gone into any Broward or Miami-Dade school, but there is a safety net in place in both districts to support students should their families face deportation. In Fort Lauderdale, Joan Murray, CBS News, Miami.
Immigration concerns are growing in South Florida. Some families say they're living in fear, worried that their loved ones will go into immigration appointments and not come out. CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor is at an immigration office in Miramar, where he spoke to a man who says the mother of his child was inside the building for hours.
So we're talking about a man's girlfriend who went into this building with her teenage daughter. They both had appointments. For anybody who's not familiar with this, people who enter the country illegally, they have to report on a yearly basis to an immigration office like this one. Sometimes people do come out, sometimes they don't.
This man, who identified himself as Juan, brought his girlfriend and stepdaughter to an appointment at this Immigration and Customs building in Miramar at 10 a.m. He tells me the girlfriend and the daughter left Peru 4 years ago. They crossed the border illegally. Now, on a yearly basis, they have to come to an appointment. In 2023, the girl did not come because she was in school. This year, she's here. And Juan, who is a U.S. resident, was anxious after hours of waiting.
The catch and release always has a requirement that you have to report to ICE on a yearly basis.
Meanwhile, Ermita Cervera, who we met waiting for her husband, who had been detained after his appointment on Wednesday, did not get the best news. My husband was transferred to Crum without telling me much, but the fact is that normally that's the procedure when someone will get deported. She said her husband had entered the U.S. illegally twice.
If you are deported, physically deported, and you come back without a waiver being granted to you, you have illegal entry after deportation. You can actually go to federal prison, complete a sentence, and be deported again.
For Juan, the story was different. His girlfriend and stepdaughter were released after 3 hours. They hugged, they cried, they laughed.
What did they ask you?
Nada.
They just asked me for the paper of my appointment. They noticed I had no criminal record. They said we could go.
Not all the stories have a happy ending. So immigration attorney Willie Allen recommends anybody who has received a deportation letter seek legal assistance as soon as possible. And for those who may fear getting caught into an immigration raid, the recommendation from experts is carry your voter's registration with you and show it with your driver's license, and that way you will be safe. We are in Miramar. Yvonne Taylor, CBS News, Miami.
When we come back on Headliners, see how residents in one South Florida neighborhood facing eviction banded together to save their homes. That's next.
From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back to our show. I'm Elliot Rodriguez. Residents at One Sunrise Community were facing eviction because of structural issues with their buildings, but they got an 11th hour reprieve, and now they're fired up to turn things around in their community. CBS News Miami's Joe Murray joins us once again to show how they're retaking action and strategizing for real changes.
It's going to be okay. We're going to work it out. Carmen Martinez can breathe after days of anxiety. The single mother of a 5- and 10-year-old, she thought she would be forced to move out of her condo at Grenadier Lakes in the sprawling Wellaby complex.
You get more time to evacuate in a hurricane situation.
Here with the city, we're here to actually tag the building.
She and dozens of other families were told last week their buildings were unsafe because of crumbling concrete and rotting wood. But with temporary fixes in place, they've squeaked by for now.
And after the leak, we have this.
State Senator Dr. Rosalind Osgood looked at the living conditions on Thursday. This couple dealing with mold and a plastic ceiling because of bad roof repair. She said residents did the right thing, filing a complaint with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, which she personally followed up with. What do you say to a resident who has filed a complaint but feels like DPBR is not listening?
Please contact your state senator or your state representative. We're elected to represent you.
And residents aren't stopping. United to make real change with their homeowners association. They have a lawyer who has temporarily halted a $4.5 million assessment.
I understand that, things do cost money to fix, but, there needs to be a discussion and transparency about what's being fixed.
We learned the current HOA board has resigned. These residents want to form a new board to do things differently. Watch how the condo fee money is spent, keep track of repairs, and hold on to their homes. It's a steep learning curve, but Carmen Martinez is steeling herself for the uphill battle.
Know your neighbors, get together, ask questions, be part of the board. You're entitled to know.
So the temporary fix is in place, but it's going to take time to fix what's really wrong. Delving into financial documents, maybe getting a new property manager. The process to form a new board will start next month. In Sunrise, Joan Murray, CBS News, Miami.
President Donald Trump has put the return to office debate front and center with the recent signing of an executive order that calls on the heads of federal departments and agencies to bring their workers back into the office full time, no more working from home, as corporations follow suit and other companies start to tip the scales on hybrid work. There are challenges and questions for employees and companies. CBS News Miami's Jim Barry has more on the debate.
When it comes to facing return-to-office mandates, federal employees are not alone in 2025. The Pew Research Center recently found the number of employees expected in person at the office a certain number of days has grown since early 2023, while most workers surveyed still prefer a hybrid arrangement.
It's the work-life balance that comes with being able to work from home, being able to have a hybrid work environment that's really appealing to workers.
Kim Parker, director of Pew's Social Trends Research, says women especially cite potential challenges of returning to the office full time.
We did find that women were a little more likely than men to say that they would probably leave their job if they no longer had the option of working at home. And we know from our prior research that the caregiving burden does fall more heavily on women.
Sarah Perry, a professor of management at Baylor University, says employers should be specific about any major switch in policy.
The reasons why, what we're hoping to get out of it, and how we're going to do this. How's it going to look? How are we going to take care of you in the midst of this? So what are the types of flexibility that you'll still have?
And employees should inquire about any new lines between time on and time off.
Employees should trigger these conversations so that they are had. What are the expectations now as a team, as coworkers? Are we going to respond to emails at night? Are we going to try to maybe build better boundaries back in?
That was Jim Barry reporting. We come back, a one-on-one with the new manager of the Miami Marlins.
From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back to our show. I'm Elliot Rodriguez. Marlins baseball is just around the corner, and CBS Miami sports anchor Mike Cunio spent the day in Jupiter. He got an exclusive day in the life look at the new Marlins manager and World Series champ.
I'll be walking down the hall, and I'm like, okay, I got a pretty good beat on the lay of the land now, right? And I'll take a turn, and I'll go, wait a minute. I need to go back the other way. So.
New Marlins manager Clayton McCullough is still settling into his new digs up in Jupiter.
Come in here, maybe help, do some work here in the cage. Right. A lot of it is I really just enjoy loving and watching guys, get their work in.
Before spring training starts, his day-to-day includes checking in on players who have arrived early for some extra work.
Yeah, we got a little entourage today, huh? Getting ready to get some work in, huh?
And here, it's the attention to the little things that he believes will lead to big success.
Every team has their challenges and difficulties, right? And we're worried less about, the outside noise of others and think about, okay, what do we need to, what do we need to focus on? What do we need to do and improve upon on an individual level and then as a collective? A little bit lighter day. Tomorrow will be a big day for the catchers. Tuesdays and Fridays have kind of been the big days with a lot of guys throwing bullpens. So come in here and the work doesn't ever stop. One career. They only have one shot at it. So you realize the magnitude and responsibility we all have to try to, be our best version for them.
McCullough's baseball philosophies come from 7 years as a minor league manager, plus another 10 working for the LA Dodgers. But his baseball roots come from his dad, who was a Hall of Fame scout.
You can bounce stuff off of him that you really maybe can't do with a lot of other people. He's been in this business. He knows what he's looking at. How nice is that to have?
And it's not that, my dad would always have the best answer, say, but hey, just the ability to know that, hey, anytime can pick up the phone, he's going to answer, just going to listen to how things are and maybe just reel back in your perspective, when things start to maybe get a little bit scattered.
That perspective can be found in his new office. He's been so busy, he hasn't had too much time to decorate. Aside from some family photos, there's a letter from his dad pinned to the wall.
Really, aside from the pictures, the family, it's really the one thing hanging in your office.
They'd come up, spent Christmas with us, and I found in my bag, shortly after they left, a letter he had wrote me. And it was just, some encouragement, some being a dad, which was, really cool. So I thought, it's a nice thing to put up there, and it'll be very easy, I'm sure, at times to kind of get, with everything going on, you get a little bit lost in your way, and then some things like we have, like some anchor points to come back to.
In that letter, a special quote.
So this was a quote by Ben Hogan. As you walk down the fairway of life, you must take time to smell the roses, for you only get to play one round. Again, I enjoy and also appreciate how awesome this opportunity is, and we all only get one shot at, at this, this type of career and opportunity.
That was CBS News Miami's Mike Cunha reporting. The season for Greek Orthodox churches to have their big festivals is beginning, and the original Greek Fest here in Florida is at St. Andrew's Greek Orthodox Church in Kendall. CBS News Miami's Trish Christakis spent the day there to see how they set up for the big parties.
It's Greek Fest time, which means an insane amount of garlic, bags of lemon.
So much that we switched from cut to bottled.
Spirits shipped right from the motherland.
Yeah, some moves will go about 1,000 bottles of these.
You heard that right.
1,000 bottles or so.
And of course, sweets, a lot of them that don't last long.
We sold out of everything last year.
Preparations for this weekend have been in the works for a year, run all by volunteers.
Ever since the last one ended, and even during it, we're making notes of how we can improve, what we can do to make the guest experience better.
The day before prep is no joke, a massive lamb that they season a lot.
On that side, underneath.
Before it sits in a marinade overnight, then to the spit in the morning. Okay. And it doesn't stop there. There's a pig. And over 500 lamb shanks that they braised last night for about 4 hours.
These recipes are handed down from generation to generation. When people pass on, the recipe continues, and we honor them and the jobs that they've done previously.
This is their 43rd year putting on the festival, and this one is special. Food is a big part of Greek culture, but it's where these recipes come from that means so much.
We talked about passing down of recipes. Well, all the pastries are her recipes.
They honor her, Elpida, who passed shortly after last year's festival, a yaya or grandma to all and head baker that wore this apron that now Helen will wear in her honor.
An amazing lady, and she taught us all we know. She was a great leader and a great baker and a teacher.
Elpida is at the front of all their minds as they put on the church's largest fundraiser for the first year without her.
We love what we do. We want to raise money, but we want to make sure everyone knows that we're all here for each other, and if anyone needs anything, this church is here for you. In
Kendall, Trish Christakis, CBS News, Miami.
That looks delicious, topped off with some ouzo. It's a great day. And thank you so much for joining us for this half hour on Headliners. As always, keep it right here to CBS News Miami for up-to-the-minute breaking news and weather 24 hours a day. Make it a great day.